Danielle. I'm the owner and lead designer at Ruffled Willow. We're located out of Hopkinsville, Kentucky. We also travel for events. We've gone to South Dakota before, of course Nashville, Paducah, and Murray, quite a bit. In 2019, we opened Ruffled Willow. So we primarily did weddings and events back then. So that was our focus. And then from there, we just saw a need in our community for a florist that wasn't your typical florist. And I say that in the greatest way to all retail florists, because now owning a retail shop for 2 years, it is hard, y'all. So I give major props to anyone who owns a small business and anybody who works in retail, because it is difficult, but it is also fun, and we get to see our clients and learn about their lives and all the little moments and the big moments and the sad moments that they have. We kind of get to celebrate and go through it with them. So I do love the retail world, but weddings and events are definitely my passion, and that's where we got started. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to make a arrangement sort of in the style that we do at Ruffled Willow, which is more of a garden gathered, organic, freestyle form instead of more of a structured retail arrangement. And one of the things that we learned with the retail space is how different those types of arrangements are. Where a retail arrangement, when you order something for a friend for a birthday, you want it to last a long time. You want them to see it open. Where in the event world, we want it at its peak, at its openness, the day of the wedding. So I'm going to teach you a couple of little tricks that we have and kind of go through that with you. And please feel free to ask questions if you have any questions while I'm talking. The first thing we're going to talk about is our vessel and different techniques that people use. One of the techniques that we use, or most everybody uses, is flower foam. It is not great for the environment, so we try not to use this, but sometimes in the event world it's necessary. When we have an outside event, when we've got heat and things like that, we want to make sure that our flowers stay good and hydrated. So a lot of times if you buy this flower foam at Hobby Lobby or wherever you're buying it, one of the first things that it tells you is to soak it in water. And one of the things that you should never do is just jump it in there and dunk it. It has these porous in the back, and it's just supposed to soak it up. So you never want to like push it down, because that creates air bubbles, and you'll be able to see that when you cut into them, where the water doesn't soak up in your oasis. So if you ever do that, let's say this is full of water, obviously it's not, but you will just want it to like set in there and it'll soak it up on its own. You don't want to like push it down. So we're going to use this block of oasis, and I forgot my knife, so we're just going to chop it and use it in our vessel. And I'm also going to fill it up too. Also want to say, just because I do it this way or do it a certain way doesn't mean it's the right way, or that it would be the best way for you to learn either. Everyone learns differently, and also with floral design, you don't really want it to be cookie cutter. You want it to be an expression of yourself or an expression of the event. So you want your arrangement to kind of speak for you. So what we're going to start with, or what I'm going to start with, is a little bit of huck to create the shape and the movement. And also bear with me too, because I'm used to it being up here, so it's going to be a little hard for me to figure it out. But with our shape, I like to have a high and a low and kind of a swoop to it. So I'm starting with a higher point here, and then I'm going to go in with a lower point. When you're designing your flowers, can you see this? It is always best to cut at an angle for most flowers and most greenery. That lets the stem soak up your water a little bit better. You also want to make sure that you remove any foliage that can be in your water. That creates a lot of bacteria and makes it last not as long. So here we're just going to go in with some greenery. Kind of create our base. Okay, so it's not so quiet in here. let's talk about like what is everybody's favorite flower? Somebody have roses.
Young flowers.
Of course, peonies. Anyone have any others?
I love roses.
You love roses?
Anything that blooms.
Hydrangeas, irises.
I even like weeds that bloom.
Same, me too, right? So if we have time, I'm gonna make us like a ditch arrangement. Out of literal flowers I got out of the ditch. But I think that's fun too, because like when you're driving down the road, if anybody lives like out in the country, there's some really pretty flowers out there. They're not flowers, they're weeds. But you know,
Not really.
not really. And I mean, who's to say they're weeds, right? And it just will kind of add something to your kitchen table just to have that. Okay, so I'm kind of creating this huck like this. I'm not going to go in with a full coverage of my greenery because I want the flowers to kind of speak for themselves. Does anybody grow flowers here? Yeah, okay, that's a lot of hands. What kind of flowers do y'all grow? Roses? Okay, yellow knockout roses? Awesome. Have you ever heard of David Austin roses? Yeah, people shaking their heads. They're like unbelievably amazing.
You have to be smart to grow them, though. I am not
There are some that aren't that bad to grow. Okay. Also, while we're talking, well, it just stopped, but there's also a slideshow of the weddings we've done. As I said before, we started in weddings and events. And so I've probably done close to 500 weddings as Ruffled Willow, and then probably another 500 working for other people. I'm really passionate about weddings. I love weddings. I love speaking to other people's love stories and bringing like their vision to life. I really love that. So, okay. I think I'm going to stop here on this green, and then I'm going to go in with some lemon leaf or salao. Lemon leaf.
Is this already? Would it be?
This would probably be, yeah, this is a vessel that we use a lot for a wedding, so it would be typically more for a wedding. But we, our retail store kind of gravitates towards that like organic kind of look too. So we would sell something like this at our store too. It just might not sell as quickly. So I'm just kind of going lower with the salao. It's a less extensive greenery, and I don't really want it to be like the show stopper. Again, I want the flowers to kind of speak for themselves and for them to take their moment instead of the greenery. Okay, so I've got my greenery. So I'm literally making this as we talk. So I didn't do a pre-anything. So I may end up pulling it out and then starting over. But that's the great thing about floral design is that you kind of just have to trust the process, right? So sometimes you get into it and you're like, oh, I'm not loving how this is looking. But you can always take it over and start over. The only thing you don't want to do, since we're using Oasis, is pull your stem out. It leaves a really big hole in your Oasis and it can start to crumble. If we were doing this for an event or if it was going out, we would use some chicken wire, which is also a great alternative to the floral foam. And you just kind of ball it up and make it where it makes like a grid, and that catches your stems, and that helps a lot as well. Okay. So what we're going to start with is our lime flowers, our linear flowers. I've got some local grown snapdragons here. And they're like so pretty. They're like that ruffly look on them. I'm telling y'all, when y'all use local grown flowers, you just can't beat it. They're fresher, they're more vibrant. You're not having to have them shipped in. They don't have to go through processing like that. We work with a local co-op called Southern Kentucky Floral Exchange. It's out of Bowling Green. But there's, I hear lots of floral farms around here as well too. So what we're gonna do here is kind of create the shape that we're looking for. So I'm gonna go in to the side, to the top. And again, still cutting at that angle. and then a little lower there, and then one more in the back. With design, any kind of design, it's best to work with odd numbers. They just kind of help make the arrangement. I usually work in a triangle motion, so if you can tell, I've got a triangle here, and then I'm going to work into another triangle as well to add some more of the snapdragon in. Sorry.
Are there different types of your foam thing? Are there different ones you need to look for to
Yeah.
make it easy to punch in?
There's so many different types. At a wholesale level, there's lots of different types. I'm not really sure, like if you're buying like on Amazon or Hobby Lobby or things like that, the different types of what we call bricks of Oasis. There's some that are made for like soft flowers, like your tulips and your calla lilies and things that are like have a softer stem. We just use the normal medium brick unless we know that we're working with like a lot of softer ones. Oasis is the brand though that we use. There's one, I think Aqua Foam is another brand, but we typically use the Oasis brand.
If you didn't call a brand, what would that be called?
Flower foam?
Flower foam?
Maybe, yeah.
Okay.
Like a wet flower foam, not a dry flower foam. Because a dry flower foam is what you would use for like silks.
Okay.
So it would be a wet flower foam. Okay, so now that I've got a little bit of linear, I'm gonna go in with a little bit more. These are red hot hookers. They're lots of fun. And the different texture and the different movement in your arrangements, I think really brings it to life. And also feel free to like play with negative space too. Like you don't want it to all like be bunched together where you can't see the different flowers. You want to play with like your negative space as well.
What is that called?
Fire stick hookers? Red hot hookers?
Red hot poppers.
Red hot hookers. You can grow these in your garden. Lots of people
I've got
do.
some growing up in my mailbox. They're little,
Yeah.
but it's kind of like a bowl, isn't it? Is it a bowl?
I don't know. A lot of people think that because I'm a florist, I ought to be great like in gardening too. But like these flowers are dead. So we just like, one of my employees says that we're like the morticians of floristry. We try to make it look as good as possible for as long as it has left. Sorry if it's morbid. Okay, so I have him up a little bit more, a little dancey. I want him to be a little bit of a focus. Also, I call flowers he and she, so ignore that as well. Okay, I'm gonna start with 3, but I may come back for some more too.
Can you turn it around so we can
Ooh,
see?
yeah, there we go.
Oh, yeah.
He's getting there. Okay, so the next flower I'm gonna work with are called ranunculus. Does anybody have this? Yeah, they're so great.
I may have plenty.
Okay, so ranunculus is a great little flower. I don't know how close I am. If I'm right here, can you see that really well?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So this is a ranunculus. The great thing about them is they have these beautiful like ruffly heads, but the horrible thing about them is they tend to break a lot. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna teach you how to wire these. So first of all, you kind of remove your babies. I keep these because I think they look good in the arrangements. They're probably never gonna open, but I like the dancingness of it, the wispiness of it. So we're gonna get some 20 gauge wire, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna go straight through the middle and wire this. So if we have any nurses here, I hear it's like running an IV, like just trying to find the vein, and like you want it to go all the way through it.
How do you keep it from coming out the side?
Oh, it does sometimes. And we just kind of pop it back in there. Sometimes we wire it, and then I'm just gonna cut it off. And that gives me the ability to move it and manipulate it how I want it to. Does anybody want to try? No? Nobody? Nobody wants to try at all? Okay, all right, she's gonna try. All right, come on.
Those are some of my favorite flowers.
Okay. Good.
And I never can arrange them because I didn't know.
Yes, do you want to try one too? All right. Yeah. All right. I'll do it with you, so we can all do it together. Just right in the center. Yeah. Just stick it in there. Yeah, so you want to be really careful when you're holding it, because a lot of times you want to pinch it like really heavy, but you're going to go straight down that center. Do you see that right there?
Yeah.
Straight down that center, and you're almost like just feel it. You don't even have to like.
Yeah, it's not gonna go straight.
I came out, but then I was able to adjust it.
Say that.
Keeping your wire straight is going to be super helpful with that too. Want to give it a shot?
Yeah, they're not.
Yeah.
I do artificial. Never
Okay.
So I kind of know all that.
I don't do that
We
anymore.
can't go back and watch this, right?
I'm not hearing the recording.
I see the little thing.
Yeah, so you're just going to go straight through that middle. The straighter you can keep your wire, the better.
Okay, so this is straight.
You want to give it a shot? All right.
I can handle like not sharp,
Not sharp things. Is that okay with
like
that? Okay.
like not sharp knives.
Okay. How about I give you the wire and we work together?
More tricky. She just zooped it right down in there.
Let's go this way. Okay. See that right there? Here you go. You
Take it to the tip. You can feel it coming out. Yeah.
See it? Feel it? And it came out the side right there, so we're going to come back in. See how that came out the side? You feel it?
That's the person I did.
Yeah, I keep missing it.
You keep missing it?
Yeah, because
Okay.
it's got a curve in it.
There you go. Look at that.
Experience, but
Good job.
Oh, she got it down there so quickly. What's
She did. Way to go. High five. Way to go.
Mine keeps
Okay,
popping.
so if your stem where is it?
Mine keeps popping.
Oh, that's perfect. You don't want it. You don't have. It doesn't have to go all the way down. You got it, girl.
Because it,
All right, let's. Okay, see this? A bend and a bend.
yeah, I looked at
That's
the bend.
probably a little bit.
I was looking at the bend and I was like, with the bend,
So let you get you a little bit straighter wire,
okay.
and then try that again. Just straight down.
Would you stick it
Just straight down the
right
middle.
that middle? I
Yeah,
couldn't. Yeah.
just kind of feel for it. You don't even have to look at it. Just feel. Okay, came out the side.
Yep,
There we go. Feel it?
it's in there now.
Yep,
Well,
came out the side.
you got to keep it straight.
Uh-huh. There you go.
That's the
And that's all you need. You just need a little bit so that it can, there you go, so that its head is supported
It keeps the hair from
from flopping down. It also will help, a lot of people wire, you want to try one more?
Does that hurt it too much to pop it out?
No, you're all
That's fine.
good. Yeah, just a little bit. There you go. Yeah, it almost looks like string. I'm not sure how it grows. Thank y'all. Thank y'all for y'all's help. Okay. Let's try one more and then I'll use these. Okay. Give that a shot. Straight down that middle.
It'll be right here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going home, start some of my knots. See if they'll come first. I've got a bunch that I'm gonna get around.
Did you get it?
Mouth. That thing is so. I got this week to get
Right in there.
to see it.
I mean, if it comes out the side, you
Okay,
just
that's
pull it
your
back. And wire it down. There you go.
Lots in there.
That's in there. And then keep going. Yep. Keep going. It
It's
came
in
out.
there. No,
Yeah.
it's in there.
It's in there.
It's in there. I see what you're saying.
Pull it back out a little bit.
Comes out, you just pull it up. Just
And
keep
go
pushing
back.
it.
There we go. All right. Perfect. Okay. All right. So now everybody had a little demonstration with the ranunculus. So we're gonna bend the ranunculus, and you can do this with any ranunculus. And the locally grown ranunculus are a little bit smaller. So these are more Clooney ranunculus. So they're a little bit of a luxury flower. These are great for buttonholes or boutonnieres. So what I'm going to do here is, because I want them to be a little bit of a focus too, I'm going to try to work backwards. Let's see. I'm going to remove all the greens on here again. And then I'm going to I'm following the shape and the line of the original design I started with. I started with my huck and went in that kind of loop U-shaped design, and then with my linears, and now I'm going in with some focal flowers that way as well. And because I don't want this arrangement to be one-sided, I'm going to put some in the back as well, because if this was to be a table arrangement, we would want it to be pretty all the way around. Okay.
So for every new flower, you just keep the triangle thing, is that what you?
Yeah, you have to kind of keep the same triangle movement. There's a triangle here, and then there's a triangle here. Okay. Next, I'm going to go in with a little bit of stock. Now, this is locally grown, and it smells so good. This is local grown stock. It's in the magenta color, and I'm going to use it to kind of fill some void in here. Stock.
Yeah, that's.
And with the stock, you'll want to remove this. This tends to wilt or look wilty, so you'll want to remove that so that it doesn't look as if it's wilting. When you're using Oasis, you definitely want to make sure that your flower is not only in the Oasis, but like really good and deep in there, and that way your flower is drinking and hydrating. When you receive an arrangement, making sure that you change the water daily or every other day will help the longevity of your arrangement as well.
Where did you get your basil?
Yeah, so this came from one of our wholesalers, but it is just like a compote. So a lot of great vessels come from antique stores too, especially like old candy dishes, like footed candy dishes. Those are great ones. This brand in particular is called Accent Decor. It's a wholesale only brand, but sometimes you can find them like on Amazon, somebody reselling on Amazon. Okay, I'm also really bad about cleaning up after myself, so since it's not my space, I'm gonna clean up just a tiny bit. Okay, so the next thing I'm gonna go in with is some Free Spirit roses. And they've got like this beautiful color. They smell really good too. So all the roses, when they come packed, they have these guard petals on there. And so what you want to do is just remove those little guard petals and just pull those off. And then that creates that. Now I'm going to show you a couple little tricks on how to open your roses, how to get them from like a tight rose to more of an open rose. And you don't want to do this if you're, if you have an event on Saturday and you're making your arrangements on Wednesday. You'll want to do this if like you're having an event on Saturday and you're making your arrangements on Saturday and you want them to be opened. So one of the things that you can do is take your rose, just give it a little twirl like this. And that takes your rose and then a little rose CPR, so like blowing hot air in it and opening it up. We'll take your rose from like that tight look to that more open look. And another thing you can do, we do this a lot with wedding work, is called reflexing. So you just take your finger and your thumb and you reflex those petals back, and it opens the rose so that it almost turns it into a whole different shape. You can reflex tulips, lots of other things. The thing you want to be careful with is sometimes touching petals on certain varieties of roses can bruise the roses, especially with like white flowers. They bruise really easily, but white roses tend to open up really well on their own, so you don't really have to do that. But if you can tell, that changes the shape dramatically of your rose to more of an open look to a little bit closed up look. Both are pretty. Like this one's gorgeous on its own. You didn't need to do that. But if you're just looking to elevate your design a little bit more, this is a great way to do that. So with my roses, I'm going to use these in here. I'm going to tuck them in, and I also want them to be focal. So I want them to be a little bit of both. Remember to remove those guard petals. And a lot of like floristry is like trial and error and figuring out like what works well with you. There's certain things like the way you process flowers and the way you hydrate flowers that needs to stay the same so that you know, for the integrity of the flower. But sometimes I think a lot of industries get caught up in it has to be a certain way. And I think that is where we hinder ourselves from growth and finding new things. So don't be afraid to like play with things and figure out what you like and what looks good to you. Okay, so this is where we're at right now. If I added greenery, it would probably, you could be done, but I like to go a little extra. So we're going to add a couple more things into here. One of these things is going to be local poppy pods.
Pods.
Yeah, the pods of the poppies. So the poppies are gone, and these are the pods of them.
That's it.
So they're like pretty cool and a little funky, and they have bends to them. That's lots of fun, and it really helps to elevate the design. One of the things that we hear a lot at Ruffled Willow about our designs is they're very unique and they have unique flowers, and we take a lot of pride in sourcing things that not everyone has or not everyone can get. We also grow a little bit of our own, which kind of helps offset the cost, the rising cost of flowers and imports and that kind of thing.
Can you grow huck around here?
No, I don't think you can grow huck around here. The humidity is not for it. But there's some really cool ditch greenery that looks a lot like it. And it doesn't hold up as well as huck does. Huck we use in a lot of installs. There's a screen going, and every once in a while they'll show like some big install pictures. Or if you follow us on Facebook or Instagram, we just did one in Murray that had like this big growing up thing in the chimney, and it was like 35 foot tall, and we used huck in that, and it lasted all day long without needing a water source. So with these, I'm kind of just adding them in there sporadically to give a little bit more texture into it.
Question about the rose. Why do you take the guard petal off?
They're the guard petals. So when roses are packed, they're packed usually in like 25, and they're like really tightly packed. And so the guard petals are usually damaged. Like you can see, like this one has like a tear in it. So you just take the guard petals off just to show the more beauty of the rose. I don't know, like other than that, why? And sometimes like with these that are the different color roses, the guard petals can be a complete different color than the actual rose itself. So a lot of times, like with a Moab rose or even a white rose, so the white rose will have a lot of like green on the guard petals, and you take those off so that you can see more of that white. Okay, so there we are there. And then I am going to add some peonies in here. Everybody's favorite, so pretty. They smell really good. Created a lot of noise. Y'all like those peonies, huh? When peonies are in season, they're literally the best things. Now, does anybody know the wholesale price of a peony? So, like, if you were to call your wholesaler and say, how much is a one stem of peony? Does anybody know how much they run? No. So we buy peonies as a whole, as like a consumer. They would be about $10 per peony. They cost us about $5 every time we get a peony. So next time you call and get a peony from your florist, know that that is why. And a lot of the reasons why is because peonies only bloom one time a year. And when they bloom, when they bloom, they take a lot of time. Peony bushes, the first 3 years of their life, you are not supposed to cut off of them. So it's really a big investment for the grower. So they really have to get that money's worth. Also, because of tariffs and importations and the price going up overseas to get things here, local flower farmers have in turn gone up on their prices, rightfully so. And so that makes it even more expensive.
I can't imagine how you could even order a flower, especially a peony,
Yeah.
from overseas and get it here before.
Well, so in Ecuador, so I'm not really sure about roses, peonies, but like roses, Kentucky weather, yes, we can grow roses, but we'll never be able to grow a rose like Ecuador can. will never be able to have that like humidity and that climate. They grow roses, they cut them and they ship them same day. So by the time we get them, they're a couple days old. We recut them. A lot of times what's done is dry packed, which means they've been like seared at the end where they're not getting any moisture, and we recut them and then put them in water and let them hydrate for another 2 to 8 hours, and then they start like coming back to life. So a lot of times when we get roses in, they look like they're about to die, like their heads are like bent over, which is why they're packed so tightly. They're packed in cardboard and then plastic around them, so that when we get them, they can hydrate and kind of come back to life, revitalize. Yeah.
So where do you get the peonies from? They're out
Yeah,
of season?
these ones were locally grown. So we have, they're not completely out yet. So these came locally.
Wow. Mine are all gone. Mine were gone.
Yeah.
Weeks
And
ago.
you know you can hold peonies in your cooler, right? Okay, so these are like blown open. This is not where you would want to pick them. You pick up peony when it's like at a marshmallow stage, right? So when it feels like a marshmallow, so you can cut them and then lay them flat, wrap them in newspaper, and put them in a cooler, and they'll last for 3 weeks. Then you recut them, and you can put them in a vase arrangement.
That's good.
Yeah, it is. It's good to know. So if like you have an event coming up, but you want to like use your peonies, you can do that. You want to stay. A lot of people like to put their flowers in a refrigerator because they think that helps. But if there's ever any fruits and vegetables in a refrigerator, it emits a gas that will kill your flowers faster. So same thing happens like if you have it on your countertop and like you have like a fruit bowl there. That gas that's released from your fruit and vegetables will kill your flowers faster. So you want to stay away from that.
I guess not.
All right. So the very last thing I'm going to do is add a little bit of filler flower. This is called yarrow. You can also get this in a ditch right about now. You're probably not going to find pink.
What's the name of it?
Yarrow. I cut some last night on our farm, and it's the white yarrow. So you're probably not going to find pink yarrow, but you might find some white yarrow. Okay, so this is one of my final steps, and what I'm just using here, I'm just using it as like a filler flower. So I'm taking it and I'm going kind of deeper in there. If there's any holes, like we like to call it, or negative space, it just doesn't seem to be looking right, we're gonna fill it with this.
What'd you call that again?
Yarrow. Y-A-R-R-O-W. Yarrow.
I've never seen it that color.
Yeah, it comes in this really pretty peach color too. It's really pretty. Yeah, glad I got out of the ditch. Okay. All right, so here is our almost finished product. If you were to look close, I don't know if you can see it, there's some holes. I can kind of see the oasis a little bit. So what I'm gonna do because of that is I'm gonna go back in with my greenery, with my lemon leaf, and I'm just gonna cover that because what we like to say is you always want to cover your mechanics. You never want anybody to know how you got the look, right? You want them to think that it's natural and it's all beautiful. You don't want them to see that green oasis in there. So I'm just going in there and hiding any of that with some extra greenery. You may have the time. 5:41. Okay. Okay. So that is our final product. So that is our design, and the last thing I want to show you is how to make like a ditch arrangement. So let's say you're having some quick friends over, your countertop looks bare, and you just want to make some quick things. With the exception of these cosmos, which we grew, all of this stuff is literally stuff I found in the ditch. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna see if we can make it look pretty. We might not be able to, but what I'm gonna do is try to create a grid out of this container in the greenery so that my flowers will be good. And also, I have no idea what most of this is called because I literally found it in a ditch. But sometimes that's where you find some good filler at. I can tell this is probably not a good greenery that's going to last me long because I can tell that the ends are starting to wilt on me. So also when you're doing an arrangement and you are trying to figure out like how much you want to cut it, you can use the table as a good like variant on that. So you know. And what I'm just going in and creating this with the greenery so that my flowers have something to attach themselves to so that they don't just plop over, I guess. Yeah. You can use any kind of jar, any kind of anything for this kind of arrangement. Something that has a tighter neck and then widens out is helpful in design. You can also use tape to create a grid, and that works wonderful. So has anybody ever wanted to go into like floristry or floral design or be a florist or anything? A couple of y'all? Well, I worked in the banking industry in 2009, and I was like, for sure, knew that I was going to be a banker, like corporate life, girly, all the way. But if you're familiar, what happened in 2009 was the recession. And so so many banks closed and a lot of us lost our jobs. And I was pregnant with my daughter. So this is kind of like my origin story, I guess. I was pregnant with my daughter, and a friend of mine owned a floral shop, and she just kind of took a chance on me, and I fell in love with it. And I love everything about floristry. I love everything about horticulture. I don't know everything. I don't even come close to skimming all of the things, but I love to learn about it, and I love to create different flower pieces for different people.
Yeah.
But that being said, there's things like in my life I wouldn't have taken the jump had I not been pushed. And so sometimes you really do have to just take a leap of faith and just do it, because you just don't know what life has for you if you don't take those steps. So what I did is I just created a little grid with my greenery there, and then I'm gonna search through my pile of road stuff and see what else I have in there. So I've got some Saladego, which is Kentucky, Kentucky's flower. So I'm gonna put him in there. Now y'all don't judge this one too much, because again, I found it in a ditch.
I thought it looked good when it was sitting there. Let's do something.
Yeah.
And again, I'm just removing that greenery that might touch that water, because I don't want there to be any bacteria there. While I'm making this one, does anybody have any questions?
Did you learn on the job or did you go to
Yeah,
school?
I did not go to school. So I am completely self-taught. My grandparents did own a flower shop in Russellville when I was little, but they sold it before I even thought about it. I did do FFA and ag in school, but I'm in that class where everybody was told to go to college. And so I didn't know that this was anything that I could do for a living, or I probably would have pursued it. But then I kind of fell into it, and I fell into the wedding industry, and like I said, I love it. I loved everything about it. And so then I did take some classes. I took some classes online, and then I took some in-house classes. But really it's just playing with it and figuring out what works and what doesn't work. Okay, so then I'm gonna go in with that yarrow, kind of like I did before, and add a little bit here and a little bit there. Any other questions? Questions are good, guys. They keep me, occupied.
I kept letting those little white flowers with the yellow center.
Yeah.
They were weeds.
Right?
They were the first thing that popped up in the spring, and I kept leaving them instead of pulling them out and My son was there one day and he says, "Why are you leaving these weeds?" They're
They're
pretty.
so pretty, yeah.
They're blooming. Nothing else is.
Yeah. We were hoping that some black-eyed Susans would be out, but it's a little early where we are. We went to Nashville and we saw a couple on the way there, but they're in a different growing zone than we are, so they've got a little bit more time there.
I think those white ones, are they called comfrey? Comfrey?
Gumfrina?
C-O-M-P-F-R-E-Y?
Not sure.
Not either. Them.
Yeah, this one is Queen's Anne lace.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about these. Do you have a question back there?
I just wondered what Queen Anne's lace is compared to dark.
Yeah, okay, and so I'm glad you brought up Queen's Anne's lace, because has anybody ever heard of hemlock?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, okay, so you want to be real careful with hemlock and Queen's Anne lace. So this is Queen's Anne lace. It has a really pretty green stem. If you're ever in the ditch and you're looking for Queen's Anne's lace and it has purple, stay away from it. That is hemlock and it is poisonous. It's almost like an acid, so you do not want to get it. A lot of times with Queen's Anne lace too, lots of chiggers and spiders will get in there, so if you're cutting that, just give it a big hard shake before you bring it into your house. Yeah, nobody wants chiggers. Queen's Anne lace is such a pretty flower. I love for it to like dance. I just think that it just is so organic looking and can just dance.
That's what we done years ago, but we dried.
I think that was a little too wilty to put in there.
Oh yeah, that's pretty.
It's a little something. And this is a great way to just have fun and to experiment without going and spending a lot of money. And it looks very organic compared to if you just went to like Kroger and got a bouquet. Which I always suggest you go to your local florist and ask them for a hand-tied bouquet or some loose stems if you're wanting to play. Just the quality of flowers that you get at a local florist is going to be very different than what you can get at a big chain. And also supporting local. Okay. I'm just adding these little daisies in here as a little filler.
Is this the triangle thing too, or is this just free?
I think I'm just freestyling it. I don't think I'm not putting a lot of thought into it anyways. And that is one thing, in my opinion, that floristry, just being like, because you don't want to be too perfect, right? You don't want it to be too symmetrical or too asymmetrical. So sometimes it's just fun just to do it, just to do it.
Some of it's tall, some of it's short.
Okay. Yeah, so that's what I'm gonna end with. So there's my little roadside ditch arrangement. So you can honestly make something out of nothing that would just be really pretty on a table. Yeah, and cheer somebody up too. Anybody have any questions while I clean up?
I have just
Yes, ma'am.
an arrangement down there.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, the styrofoam.
Uh-huh.
So, do the stems go in the styrofoam?
Well, it's not styrofoam. Let me show you. It's like, well, let me show you both. It feels like styrofoam, but it's an Oasis floral foam. So it's made to absorb your water. So this is what it feels like, but this is what it feels like when you put the water in. See how much water that's in here? So it's made to more fresh flowers. You can get some that's called dry foam, and that's made more for silk flowers. You may be able to see this on from that. Okay, so it depends on the type of Oasis or the type of flower foam you get. This type is like a quick set, so it probably takes, we like to give it like 10 minutes. I mean, it probably does it faster, but just so that we know that there's no like water in there, staying in there. We usually give it about 10 minutes. Anybody else? Yeah?
What about the bit of adding like wood or aspirin or something?
Yeah. Okay. So I'll speak to what we do, right? Because that's all I know is what we do. I don't love chemicals, and I don't love that we are taking something and putting more chemicals in it, in the vessels, in the flowers themselves. So we use fresh water, and that's all. We don't use any flower food. We don't use sugar or copper pennies or things like that. We primarily only use fresh water. Now on events, we use Crown and Glory, and it's like, I call it like a Botox for flowers. So it like preserves them. So whatever state they're in at the moment, that Crown and Glory preserves it for them.
You say fresh water,
Yeah, fresh water.
tap water?
Yeah. I will say my husband works for the local utility department in Hopkinsville, so we use fresh tap water because it's one of the cleanest in Kentucky.
Well, I mean, it's got, you know, it's got,
Right, it
Stuff
does
in it.
have like I think fluoride and some different minerals added to that tap water. So
doesn't it have chlorine and stuff in it too?
I'm not sure on that one. I don't know if it has what it has in it. Now you will say some people swear that distilled water is the way to go. Some people use sparkling water, but we just use everyday fresh tap water. And with Oasis products and things like that, it is a little harder to change the water out because it's got that Oasis in there. So a lot of times we kind of just lift it up like that and have somebody pour that water out and then change it again. Where it gets complicated is if you've taped it down or used any chicken wire, and then you just want to put that old water out as easy as you can and then put new fresh water in it. But it is really easy to do that in a vessel like this where you can just pour it out and then pour some more in it. Any others? No? Thank y'all so much for letting me come.